A high school girl named Hitomi gets kidnapped by several men intending to force themselves on her. Meanwhile, driving the van is the MC. Yes, I repeat, the MC Yuya, who is a college student, and no, he is not a sex offender nor an Adam 22 fan. He's just a loser at this point. That said, before he can save the chick, Hitomi pops from the back after he stops the van to tell him to keep driving as they are running late. Curious, the main man looks behind him only to find out that the damsel in distress has easily killed her attackers. Later, when Hitomi arrives at her location, our boy storms out of the van and runs away, while the girl phones someone who tells her to make use of him, which comes as a shocker to Hitomi since she perceives our little princess as a useless piece of trash. That said, Yuya is a smart cookie. He realized that being anywhere near this girl was quite dangerous, so he made a run for the hills. Yet at the same time, he lacked Solomon's wisdom, for he tried to seek help from a random dude who was chilling alone in a scrapyard during the Devil's Hour. Right before Yuya is about to be deleted from the series, the main girl swoops in to save him from the lion boy who has dubbed himself as the King of Beasts. A title our girl is here to test and possibly claim for herself. Yep, turns out the yard was an arena for a fight between Hitomi and the lion hybrid. Also, she didn't save Yuya out of the goodness of her heart, but she did it because the guy on the phone told her she needed to wager Yuya's organs as a prize due to the betting odds being heavily against her. How much we talking? A cool 100-0, but Yuya's existence would make it 99-1, making the contest would be eligible. And just like that, the fight starts with Hitomi trying to trash-talk the quote-unquote King of Kings, so the lad decides to stand on business and bitch slaps her. Although the lion boy is manhandling the chick, he sends a roar that paralyzes the enemy as all animals' primal instincts upon hearing the roar is to tremble in fear, but not Hitomi, who bites the lion's fingers off and reveals that she is a hybrid of a honey badger, the most fearless animal in the world. But don't take our word for it. When the video ends, search honey badgers don't care, and you will be amazed. Anyways, back to the video. After easily defeating her opponent, much to the amazement of all the people who bet on her downfall, and the joy of one old pervy man, we find ourselves in a confused Yuya's apartment. The lad has just woken up thinking it was all a dream, but then he got a handful of that honey badger's breasticle, making him recall the events leading him to take Hitomi back to his place to treat her injuries and rest as a thank for saving him. Now to be fair, he didn't need to do that as she was the one who put him in that situation. Yet at the same time, he was riding with those guys who were about to commit a felony. So I would say they are even, but who am I to talk about the immorality of a furry anime? I'm just a YouTuber living one view at a time. Please, like and subscribe. Later that day, after Yuya had taken Hitomi to a restaurant where she gets to act all kawaii after her murderous spree, an old man approaches them, and Hitomi starts fingerling over him. We learn that the middle-aged man is Hitomi's guardian Shido. Shido cuts to the chase and docks Yuya to assert dominance. He then explains to the clueless lad that he works in the demi-human manufacturing business. In fact, old man Shido here is one, if not the top researcher in that field. Furthermore, Shido explains that there are 4 major companies called the Zaibatsu conglomerates that sponsor underground death matches in Japan between the genetically engineered hybrids, i.e. the therianthropes, or as we call them, super furries. They combine the intelligence of humans with the power of animals to attract wealthy investors and gain political and economic influence, just like how IRL perceive themselves. And here comes the part where it's the main man's problem. Due to Hitomi betting on Yuya's organs, Yuya is technically the only investor she has, allowing her to take part in matches. Therefore, Hitomi is ordered to protect Yuya, who is given Hitomi's prize money, 100 million, to bet on future fights. Later, while getting some snacks for his monster girl, Yuya gets attacked by another hybrid. Well, at first she flashes the poor bastard to lure him in before piercing his leg as he was about to take a good look at Dim Tatas. When asked about what she wants, the crazy naked girl tells him, "Info. I want info about Hitomi." Luckily for Yuya, the girl behind his problems arrives to save him from turning into a shish kebab. The hybrid reveals herself as Ryoko, a porcupine hybrid from the Yatsubishi Zaibatsu, who uses metallic quills as stabbing weapons. She had intended to kill Yuya so Hitomi would have no investor for future matches. But since the girl of the hour is here right now, standing in public with no pants as the last time we left her, the porcupine girl decides to kill her instead. Ryoko goes on the offense and uses multiple attacks like head-on melee attacks to range attacks from both land and air, ending the one-sided battle ever so swiftly, or so we thought. As Ryoko is about to finish the soy boy, Hitomi stands back up as if nothing happened. It is revealed that Hitomi's honey badger skin is too tough to pierce, even with metal weapons. Stunned, the new girl makes one last desperate jump at the main girl, but gets put back in her place. Then Hitomi decides to finish her, but gets stopped by Yuya, who is against killing her. As Ryoko refuses to go out without a bang and prepares for her final attack at MC. Another contender enters the scene, i.e., she gets knocked out by a hippopotamus hybrid named Achinasuk. Although at first he makes it look like they are about to fight, the big man makes a 180 switch and gets down on all four, asking Hitomi to join the Ishida Zaibatsu. Back in Yuya's apartment, Hitomi, going on her animalistic behavior, refuses the big lad's offer, and the more they try to pursue her, the more angrily she refuses. She even makes a stand ready to get down and dirty, till she receives a message from Shido changing her mood and making her agree to fight her next deathmatch as a representative of the Ishida. The next day, Hitomi wakes our boy to an unfamiliar view, white cotton, but we can't show it here, so use your imagination, boys. Hitomi informs him that she's going to be attending university classes with Yuya. There she meets one of Yuya's friends. Now, we'd rather not talk about what he is like, but show you. Yup, the guy is literally a combination of every stereotype out there about otakus. The next scene was inside the girl's bathroom. While responding to nature's call, Hitomi meets Iruza Nakanishi, a cheetah hybrid also from the Yatsubishi. She enrages Hitomi by stealing her underwear and goading her into a fight. Sadly, this catfight gets interrupted by a representative of Mitsukato Zaibatsu and his bear friend. Quick disclaimer, be ready for a cringy bear bun coming your way. The guy informs them that Hitomi is now officially representing Ishida in the next deathmatch, so they are forbidden from fighting beforehand. That said, the badger girl couldn't bear to hear his yapping anymore, so she attacked the four-eyed boy, who turned out to be quick on his feet. After defusing the situation, an unknown observer of the fight reveals that all four Zaibatsu are targeting Hitomi, and they will most likely strike during the upcoming deathmatch. To hide their hybrid identities, Hitomi and Iruza end up wearing cosplay while students from the photography club photograph them. It was a quite genius idea given by the otaku friend, which Iruza seconded despite Hitomi's dislike. That said, the latter did enjoy posing for the masses as much as they enjoyed taking dem pics. After finishing, the trio leaves, and the girls decide to split and head to a cafe to have some time together, as if they didn't try to kill each other like 5 minutes ago. Yuya returns home late and finds Leo the lion hybrid alive. Not gonna lie, Yuya does strike me as a brain-damaged individual. It's one thing to be doxxed by a random person in League chat on the other side of the world, but it's completely another story to be doxxed by a company of killers. Like, at some point one decides to change address. Hell, even change the door locks because the current ones are clearly not locking anyone outside except his pride, of course. A girl named Yoko Mitsukato, the granddaughter of the Mitsukato Zaibatsu's president, reveals that Hitomi's guardian, Shido, is using the matches to test his hybrid research. That's why Yuya had to participate in the match as Hitomi's strategist. Yet, hearing how he's being manipulated doesn't change his mind, as he would like to leave that decision to the random chick he picked in the van. Yoko leaves his shitty apartment mad when he doesn't withdraw, having hoped his cowardice would make him say. Instead, she decides to take part in the match to ensure Hitomi's death. That said, there is still one obstacle in front of Team Misfits, and that obstacle would be to find a third member, since the match requires 3 team members. Thus, Achinasuk attempts to recruit other hybrids, but the only one available is Yui, a rabbit hybrid who has never won a match, yet to her credit she is cute as hell. And that trumps everything in my book. Alas, much like the main man, Yui lacks courage. No matter how much the hippo man begs, or the badger girl scares her and then flirts with her, they cannot convince her to join a deathmatch. Therefore, Hitomi sent Loverboy to talk with the cutie pie after she had left, but as he was breaking the ice they got attacked by Akame, a horned lizard hybrid who was preventing other hybrids from joining the Ishida, aka the Misfit team. Yui is almost shot by the blood bullets from Akame's eyes, and although she is fast as Frick Boy, the bunny girl gets cornered in an alley. Luckily, she gets saved by Hitomi, and by using her sensitive hearing, Yui deduces that Akame has a twin sister shooting from another location, allowing the main chick to defeat them. Since fighting before the match is forbidden, Hitomi blackmails the sisters into claiming they were defeated by Yui. Consequently, Yui gets excited by her first ever victory and gaslights herself into believing she defeated the assassins with her wit and might, and so joins their team. Before the start of the matches, the misfits are invited to a fancy dinner with the other participants. There they get approached by Leo, who is looking dashing as ever and condescending as usual, but Hitomi puts him down a peg when she claims she doesn't remember that Leo guy. The interaction is cut short by Nakanishi Taiga, a tiger hybrid fighting for the Yatsubishi. Long story short, the guy is disappointed he won't be fighting his rival Leo at the tournament, as the latter withdrew claiming his arm hasn't healed yet, which as we can see is a bit questionable. Meanwhile, Iruza decides she wants to kill Hitomi because she has fallen in love with her. Shido is announced as the director of the match on Hotei Island in the Philippine Sea. After the announcement, the big man checks on his bunny buddy, but he finds her nowhere. Yui is currently on the verge of being inducted into the #MeToo movement. Thank God Hitomi arrived just in time to stop this show from going balls to the wall only 4 episodes in. Back to track, the hybrids are forced to follow instructions from their investors who move them around the map like pieces on a chessboard. Yuya is initially treated with contempt by his investor opponents, who know he has no idea how to play the game, but they are forced to take him seriously when he makes an expert move, which is revealed Hitomi has been sending him hand signals via the CCTV monitors, telling him which locations to move them. Turns out they had a meeting beforehand on what to do and what not to do, knowing her boy is as dumb as they get. Hitomi faces her first opponent Hongo, a bear hybrid representing the Mitsukato. The bear, after talking with Leo, learned that Hitomi tends to measure the opponent's strength and speed by tanking the first hit, so he advised him to drop caution and hit her with his most powerful blow, ending her at the spot. Yet, our sexy badger shocks the bear man and the investors by incapacitating Hongo in less than a second with only a single move. Turns out she didn't need to tank the hit as she already registered it from their encounter at Yuya's university. Elsewhere on the map, Echina Suk was struck by the tiger boy from behind, but the big lug is built different. Literally, he is built like a hippo, so one strike like that won't be enough to put 6 feet under. That said, he still lacks the power to defeat Taiga, the former winner of the competition, so he gets placed into a temporary alliance with Shota, a gorilla hybrid from Mitsukato, and Ruji, a crocodile hybrid from Sumitomo, to take the menace down. However, the crocodile decides to test the champ by himself, and he soon finds out he doesn't have shit on him. Like, he didn't even land one hit. Jungle Boy was dodging like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. To put it simply, he showed him levels. Seeing how one part of this scuffed alliance is getting toyed with, the four-eyed boy decides to join in on the fun. However, the scaly lad still doesn't appreciate the interference, and they start arguing among themselves. Long enough for Taiga to get back up and drop Monkey Boy, then use the jungle terrain to his advantage to start leaping all over like a madman, or better yet like a mad kitty, till he drops every one of the floor with ease. Incidentally, this leaves Echina Suk standing alone against this absolute powerhouse yet again. That said, the big guy is not coward. He doesn't back down but leans forward, taking an offensive stance after resolving to die fighting. Suddenly, though, Taiga gets ordered to move to another area by his investor so he can check on Iruza. Before Taiga can leave, he gets immobilized by Ruji, who traps Taiga's leg in his jaws and goes into a spinning mode, just like how crocodiles do in real life. It's really cool. Yuya realizes that Ruji had planned this, as the hybrids failing to follow instructions within a time limit will be executed via explosive collars. But why does Taiga's boss want to move him anyway, you might ask? Well, Iruza was maneuvered into an area not covered by the cameras, allowing Kaidi, a gecko hybrid, along with Denimuna, a cobra hybrid, who is a creep beyond redemption, to restrain Kitty Girl, beat her, and subsequently perform some Animal Crossing type of shit. Meanwhile, the bunny girl is shown alone on the island minding her own business, being thick as she digs a burrow. Don't look at your screen like that. One must give credit where credit is due. Back to the story, the ugly bastard prepares to show Iruza what they do over H-anime. Sadly for him, a badger is scratching his tail, i.e. Hitomi, who had been moved there by Yuya to save Iruza. Consequently, Yuya is mocked by the investors for making a foolish move to save an opponent. As cameras get moved to the area, it's shown that Hitomi is struggling to counter Katie's fighting style, which utilizes the sticky skin on her fingers. With both girls seeing better days, they reluctantly agree to team up. Hitomi decides to fight Den, while Iruza fights Kite. A flashback shows Den meeting Keed for the first time. Little bro tried to give some compliments to the big mama, but she was not having any of his patronizing comments. The crocodile boy was the only professional one, he got down to business and took the job of bringing down the Badger Girl for one of the CEOs, who is not a big fan of Shido, controlling the tournament rules. Back in real time, Ashoka Yuya learned that when Shido took control of the matches, he changed the rules so criminals like Din could volunteer to become hybrids and compete. In other words, both monsters now fighting on screen are the handiwork of the mad scientist himself. Elsewhere, Taiga decides if he is going down, then he is bringing the scaly ass with him, which the latter was ready for as long as he defeats the king. However, shortly after he is freed from Ruji's jaws by a China sook, the latter recalls a convo with his boss on how beast men should value their lives and not throw them away. Consequently, this action allowed Taiga to quickly flee to his ordered destination and cancel the explosion that would have killed him. As a result, Ruji is livid and swears to kill a China sook. Crocoboy powers up and heals his wound. We also get this fun info on how crocodiles not only have strong bodies that can heal fast, but also have strong immune systems that can even cure HIV, something I went to Google to check if it's true or not. And oh boy, on top of being able to cure AIDS, they can also cure cancer. Elsewhere, Bad Bunny is shown underground digging a complicated tunnel and having the best time of her life. Meanwhile, Hitomi is still fighting the rapist Cobra. The A-girl managed to trick Din and tried to attack his blinded right side, but didn't realize he could still see her using his snake tongue, which is able to track her body heat. Evidently, Hitomi suddenly collapses, paralyzed by breathing Din's venom. On the other side, Heat also further transforms into a monstrous gecko and overpowers Iruza. Back to Din, he prepares to put his Cobra cannons in Hitomi, but at the last second the Badger Girl overcomes the paralysis and cuts his genitals off with a single slash. Enraged, Din attacks. But Hitomi easily cuts his body in half, severing his tail and incapacitating him. Hence, Keed is left to fight both Iruza and Hitomi alone. By the way, China Sook was down bad against Ruji, but luckily for him, the fight was interrupted by Kido, a hybrid sponsored by Yoko, who, in case you forgot, is the granddaughter of the old perv. Since Kido is Shota's teammate, he will not be catching any smoke. Only the two animals that spent most of their time in water, and just like in another small anime with a character named Kido in it, this Kido is an absolute unit, able to kill Ruji with a single punch without transforming into his hybrid form. Furthermore, he shocks the investors and somewhat me to be honest, by mercilessly beating Ruji's corpse. The big man's reason was, and I quote, "If I broke his body to little pieces, it would be easier to turn him to fertilizers to grow the trees he broke." Yep, the guy is an environmentalist. Anyways, seeing the hippo in trouble, the bee on the other side orders a China Sook to retreat, but before he was able to, the monkey boy cornered him and jumped to finish the job, yet his fist hit nothing as the big fella seemingly disappeared in a second. Seconds later, the China Sook is shown to have fallen into one of the tunnels dug by Yui. The big man thanks her and decides to take a break while Yui digs more tunnels. She then surfaces next to Shota, who serves as a prime example of why you shouldn't skip leg day. Upon seeing this atrocity, the bunny girl tries to run but is stopped, so she puts on a brave face. Back to the main event, Katie was ordered to flee from the area to a safer location, an unwise move as she eventually ran into the tiger boy, who swiftly killed her. Meanwhile, the girls Iruza and Hitomi happily began fighting each other. However, the fight soon takes a weird turn when they go on the ground. Hitomi is in the guard position, and Iruza is on top intending to kill her, but then the cheetah girl leans in and locks lips. Although taken back at first, Hitomi follows suit with 100% passion. The camera pans up, and it's shown they have been drugged by Kaori, a civet hybrid from Yatsubishi, who can produce a pheromone that causes uncontrollable lust. Considering we are curious fellas at this channel, we looked civet up, and let me tell you, this shit looks like as if a Wessel had a baby with a wild zebra. Anyways, this enrages Yoko, who considers such tactics shameful and without honor, yet the investors don't pay any attention to her angry body language, as they get more excited watching Iruza and Hitomi. Thus, Yoko angrily demands the game continue. Seeing this, the main man was impressed. It is then revealed her true intention is to humiliate Shido. To do so, she must beat his hybrids and tactics, which hopefully will end his influence over her beloved grandfather. Funny enough, the pervy sage was in a different room with his boy Shido enjoying the show before she ruined it. Back on the field, Hitomi suddenly breaks free from her lust by focusing on her real lust for Shido and attacks Kaori just as Taiga reaches them. Behind the scenes, the presidents of the four Zaibatsu discuss corruptly legalizing hybrids, turning matches into a legal business owned solely by the Zaibatsu that wins the current game. However, the bald man who planned to manipulate his way to win the game knows that Shido, as the head of the hybrid creation project, has been also manipulating events so that no matter which Zaibatsu wins, he will be the one with all the power. Now, with the underhanded company politics out of the way, we back with the action. Taiga insists on fighting Hitomi alone without Iruza or Kaori. Seeing this, Yuya realizes that there are no friends in a deathmatch. Only one team stands on top. The sponsor for Team Tiger remarks how this game, as usual, will go down to his boys facing Yoko's team, completely brushing off the idiot Yuya as a non-relevant factor. Speaking of non-relevant factors, the monkey and banana chase ends up with Shota managing to trap Yui, but damaging several trees in the process. Yup, the sticklegs have forgotten that Kido despises anyone who damages the forest. So when the big guy gives the monkey boy a mean look, instead of talking shit out, the monkey boy's minority complex kicks in. He lashes out and tries to knock his leaf-loving teammate, which doesn't work. Now, I don't want to sound mean or anything. I know looks can be deceiving sometimes, but let's be real fam. A guy wearing glasses that, mind you, skips leg day, surely can't knock out a guy with a face tattoo. For God's sake, the guy even looks like Mike Tyson from a certain angle. Needless to say, Kido rips Shota in half but leaves Yui alive. After the big man leaves for his new destination, Yui becomes determined to help Hitomi by telling her about all that she saw. Meanwhile, Hitomi gets jumped by the upper half of the snake boy, and she easily knocks him out but doesn't kill him. Instead, she tosses him to the camera crew standing by to remove him from the island to treat. Taiga was impressed as he saw that sparing. A foe's life is a privilege of the strong. We then got a flashback of his past. After Taiga defeated several lackeys, he made his way to the school's roof where Leo was chilling. Brother Leo said some harsh words. How he stands on top of business and doesn't bother with weak foes, only with those close in power to him. Taiga tried to swing at him, but Leo stopped it with one hand and continued to talk down to Lil Bro. Yet Blondie gathered his courage and raised his hand again. Amazed by the strength within him, Leo told Taiga to undergo the beast modification thing, so then, and only then, he could step up to challenge him. Therefore, now at present time, Taiga makes it known that his ultimate goal is to defeat Leo, adding Leo had only pretended to lose to Hitomi, as her strength was so far below his, he didn't take the fight seriously. Furthermore, he perceives Hitomi has insulted Leo by believing herself capable of killing his Naruto, so Taiga becomes determined to kill Hitomi for the insult. And with that, Hitomi and Taiga prepare to fight to the death, which the hottie welcomes with a scary smile. Tiger Boy usually lets his opponent make the first move since most of the time it would be out of fear, enabling him to counter pretty easily. However, this time around he made the first move. Hitomi, on the other hand, didn't move since she knew she could tank a hit. Hitomi took all those hits from Taiga to assess the best time to counterattack. Seeing how she fights through the pain and takes the same stance again, Tiger Boy admits he underestimated her. Suddenly, Yui arrives to warn Hitomi about Kido, not realizing Taiga is behind her. While running away, Yui falls to Kaori's pheromones and collapses much to her surprise, as she notes to herself that the gas is at the lowest level of effectiveness right now. Kaori didn't know how down bad rabbits can get. Anywho, back to fighting. Tiger Boy admits Badger Girl is strong and has the potential to beat Leo. Therefore, he decides to power up to the fullest and go for the finishing blow. On the other side, Yuya gets mocked by the investors for killing Hitomi with his playing style. Thinking about how his life was empty until he met Hitomi, our boy overcomes his fear of decision-making, and for once in his life takes initiative action by focusing on his friendship with second-best girl, and decides to forego his turn to move Hitomi elsewhere, allowing her to continue fighting Taiga. Yoko tries to gaslight him and manipulate his decision, but the main man, realizing his true role, now decides to stick to his guns and not negotiate with the sharks. He's keeping 100% equity of his decision. Sadly, before Hitomi manages to counter Taiga's next attack, proving Yuya was right, she is suddenly hit by Kido's tail that is covered in heavy protective scales. At that moment, Yuya realizes Yoko wasn't trying to make him leave the area, but in reality, she emotionally manipulated him into keeping Hitomi in the fight, so Kido, whom she also emotionally manipulated into hating Hitomi, could kill her. Back on the field, despite being overwhelmed with lust, Yui tricks Kaori into falling into one of her tunnels, while for Hitomi, She attempts to fight the big brute back, but finds out that cutting through Kito's armored skin is way too hard, if not impossible. Hence, she gets dumpstered by the big guy and his tail. As Kito is about to kill Hitomi, he is attacked from behind by Taiga, but even he cannot cut Kito's skin. Soon after, Kito fully transforms. Everyone is shocked to see this monster's true form, and for those who are like, what the flying F is that? It is a pangolin hybrid, especially compared to the animal it came from. After Hitomi was knocked unconscious, Taiga tried to break Kito's scales by hitting him over and over and over with his sharp claws till the big guy pulled a classic pangolin move, turning into a ball of steel. Thus, Kitty Boy does what every cat does. Keeps attacking the circle object. However, it was a trap. Taiga was tricked as the beast among monsters opened a hole which Cat Boy shoves his arm in, resulting in the loss of it. Side note for you fellas, not every hole is a goal. Taiga is saved by a Chinasook, whose attack knocks the tank to the ground and they proceed to sumo wrestle, but the tank man doesn't play fair. The latter stabs the hippo, however, it leaves Kito vulnerable long enough for Taiga to claw out his right eye. Despite this, both Taiga and a Chinasook are clapped by Kito as he stands strong above all. On the other end, Yoko happily declares her victory for the Mitsukato, and with happily I mean over the moon, this bitch loses her mind. However, Hitomi suddenly and explosively awakens and transforms further into her monstrous honey badger form, which is still her, but is wilder with much more hair that becomes even whiter. In other words, she becomes a super badger scion. Through a flashback, Shido reveals that while most hybrids are genetically modified humans, Hitomi was born with hybrid DNA, making her an origin beast, a perfect fusion of human and animal. The flashback is from 7 years ago and showcases Shido's first encounter with Hitomi, who at the time was living like a wild animal in Hong Kong. Yet her life was bound to change when Shido entered it. By feeding and spending time with her, despite the numerous injuries she caused him, Shido managed to gain her trust and named her Hitomi. All that hard work was put to the test when Shido's co-worker, Shibayama, ended up shooting her with tranquilizers, causing her to collapse in an area controlled by the Lumen Mafia. Shido shielded little Hitomi with his body, and at that moment we can see why she grew to love him so much and how she became his loyal dog. Remember this bit as it will shine the light over future action. The group was eventually saved from the Mafia thanks to the match overseer Shinozaki. Back in the present, Hitomi sits on Kito's tail and starts taunting the beast. P.S. Yui is the best girl. This time around, the juiced honey badger's attacks are vastly superior in strength and speed to her previous attacks. Their punches were so powerful the players had to cover their ears. As the fight continued, they destroyed the filming equipment and cut the power, causing the signal to the ship to be lost. Hitomi managed to slash Kito's unprotected chest, so he decided to go into ball mode. This move proved to be unwise, since that part of the world enjoys soccer. Hitomi had no problem kicking him into several trees and destroying them, as well as his mind when found out what happened. Kito's flashback reveals he associates plants with his mother who passed away and left him with his alcoholic father, who used to abuse him, and the flowers his late mother left, which drove Kito to madness and eventually killing his papa. Back in present, Kito severs Hitomi's right arm. Soon after, the big lad forced his protective scales outwards, turning them to rows of knives. Hitomi pulls a classic and bites her fingers to snap out of the pain and get her mind on the game at hand. She swiftly dodges the devastating hits until she doesn't. Yup, as soon as the big guy lands one hit, he drops the main girl and starts beating her. However, that was all part of the plan, as she suddenly flings her severed arm into his face, creating an opening for her next attack, during which she smiles. The smile reminds Kito of his mother, so for a split second, he drops down his defense, allowing her to thrust her remaining arm down his throat. Seeing this, Yoko rages for having lost to Shido, and even worse, she lost to the guy whom she branded as a retread. However, when Kito manages to stand up, she chills. Well, until Iruza comes flying from nowhere and slashes his throat. And with that out of the way, and being the last man standing, or rather woman standing, Iruza becomes the Killing Bites champion. Thus, Yoko passes out from shock. Surprisingly, Yui suddenly awakens in the cutest way imaginable to freak out when she sees a cheetah with violence in her eyes, so she tries to flee from Iruza. As she is sprinting away, she accidentally performs a perfect somersault kick, knocking Iruza unconscious. Overseer Shinozaki declares Yui as the Killing Bites champion. The presidents of the four Zaibatsu bicker fiercely, accusing each other of cheating. All the lights and monitors suddenly shut down, unseen to the representatives. The island has been infiltrated by chameleon hybrids under orders to kill all surviving hybrids, so the match will be declared void with victory going to no one. The chameleon hybrids, under orders from Sumitomo, attempt to kill all surviving hybrids. Luckily, when one of the chameleons shoots his tongue, Yui with her sharp sense of hearing manages to dodge it. Although she dodges multiple hits, she later trips and is restrained by the other assassin's chameleons. After being caught in a hen classic passion, the honey badger senses something unholy is happening, and so she stands up and defends her comrade long enough to say, "After all, this is killing bites." For the millionth time, and for the overseer Shinozaki to arrive and stop the assassins. Mami Shino then publicly declares Yui as the victor. After the assassination fails,